Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and welcome Tasneem.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Mubashir and all listeners. I'm so honored to be here.
It's only a pleasure. I think we're going to start by first, telling us maybe what the significance or what significance does Tatreez hold for the Palestinian people as well as the history.
So I think you summarized it quite beautifully. It is an ancient practice of the Palestinian women who actually hand embroidered their beautiful thobes into beautiful garments to really speak about the surroundings and where they lived and the beauty of the land and their lives. And over the years, it's actually evolved and it's become more of a means of resistance as well as a cultural practice. And as South Africans, we are honored and privileged to be able to do Tatreez as a means of showing our solidarity in creative and meaningful ways.
Now, Tatreez or Tatreez?
Tatreez.
Tatreez,
Yeah,
yes.
Tatreez.
So the word, what does it actually mean, or what does it hold? Like, what's the significance of that?
Tatreez or falahi is the Arabic word for embroidery. But Tatreez is synonymous with Palestinian embroidery, which is the cross stitch. So it symbolizes, or each region or each pattern has different symbols and meanings and significance. So it's not just a means of needlework, but it's deeply meaningful and symbolic of the heritage and the culture of the Palestinian people.
Now, I know what's beautiful about it is the fact that, you can actually, I suppose you can see this within the tapestry of the work, from a distance. And it can be even just something as maybe something plain, but just because of the way that it's been put together, the tapestry of that woven or, stitched things together. I think maybe that in itself, also displays, where it's coming from.
Yes, so there are different regions, and different regions signify different pattern styles and colors as well. For example, the keffiyeh, and this is not me as an historian speaking about Tatreez, this is just me as a layperson, having just done some research to be able to understand and appreciate the craft. So, for example, the keffiyeh is synonymous and it's become an international symbol of resistance. And within it, there are specific symbols that have specific meanings. Like, for example, the viewers can't see this, but I'm on my jacket at the back is an adaptation of the Gazan chest panel. So this was stitched. The ladies used to stitch this on their thobes, and it was very synonymous to the region of Gaza. Whereas if you were from a different region in Palestine, the symbols and the designs would be very different as well as the colors.
And that's, I think, also, and that's exactly what I'm speaking to, the fact that, it's just something, it could be a plain and simple, maybe a thobe or something, but just that little bit of detail there just really, sets or lets you as the person you seeing this clothing know exactly where it's coming from, and it just gives you, if you do understand the histories and the meanings of all these things, it really sends a message to you. And I think that's the beautiful part of it.
That's what makes it more meaningful. It's not just about stitching, it's about actually preserving cultural heritage, and especially with what's happening right now with the ethnic cleansing and the genocide, this is just our small way to be able to show our solidarity in meaningful ways through the ancient art form of Tatreez.
Now, how do the patterns and motifs in Tatreez reflect the cultural heritage of Palestine itself?
Well, that's a very deep and meaningful history, and I don't think I'm equipped to be able to go into that, because our community is a community of Tatreez enthusiasts. So we appreciate the craft. We are constantly learning about the craft as well and sharing our knowledge and with others as well. So in terms of all the intricacies of all the different patterns, it's an ongoing learning from our side, and we're grateful to be a part of that journey.
Now, I do know that you're not really too clued up with the history, but maybe just about the Nakba of the 1948. Can you maybe explain the symbolism behind the Tatreez during that time, which is the Nakba of 1948?
Yeah. So during that time and after the Intifada, or the Nakba and then the Intifada, Tatreez evolved. It became a means of really stitching in your culture and your heritage, because the Palestinian flag was banned. and then the ladies would actually stitch in the colors of the flag into the thobes as a means of resistance. So it's a deeply meaningful art and a means of resistance, not just for us showing solidarity, but the origin was with Palestinians in the way that they could show their resistance to the apartheid regime and to the occupier through their craft of Tatreez.
Now, you speak about the occupier here, and I want to know, do you think that they might have also, had information or understanding of this Tatreez, or maybe the just the clothing? Like, maybe do you know that if they could maybe just walk there and they would know that that particular individual is coming from that area or suburb or whatever was in Palestine, do you think that they could maybe even know that themselves also, like, just by looking at that?
This would be an assumption, but yes, because this art craft has been there for thousands of years, 3,000 years. So if you went to a specific region, there was definitely specific patterns, colors and designs that would be prevalent in a specific area. And there's a website called Tatreez, which documents or digitizes all the Palestinian Tatreez patterns that was taken off the ladies' thobes for hundreds of years, which is now digitized, and this is the patterns that we use now to be able to Tatreez and to teach Tatreez as well.
Okay, so you say that you teach this as well, and I mean, so how can we, I would like to do this. I know I'm a guy, and that might sound ironic, but I'm actually into this. Like, I actually like this kind of things. I like being creative, and I like to do things which, you can really be, it has symbolism in it. It's not always direct, and I think it really takes somebody to look at it and understand it, to know what it is. And I think that's things that which I actually gravitate to, and that's why this whole Tatreez is so beautiful. And I mean, I'm just learning about it today, to be quite honest. But I think I obviously knew about the kifaya and all of the other things, but I never knew maybe the terms, and I never knew what it's called and how everything works. And I mean, you bringing that information to us now, and I think a lot of us can benefit from that. But how are the other ways that, if people want to get involved and all of that kind of thing, they want to, even try to incorporate this within their own clothing and stuff like that, how can they do that?
So we do host workshops as well as teach Tatreez. So we do have a WhatsApp group as well. So we actually have a thriving community of Tatreez enthusiasts. And we currently have over 100 people part of our group. And about a monthly or so, we come together where we host either a workshop or a Tatreez together. So that means if you are a so-called seasoned Tatreezer, because we've been doing this for about a year or so, you can bring your current project and stitch along with us. Or if you are completely new, we give you the pattern or something that needs to be stitched, and we teach you how to do it. So the next question would probably be, oh my goodness, I've never stitched before. Oh, I'm a guy, can I do this? Yes, you can. So we have men, women, children 5, 6 years old, all the way to 60, 70 years old that do Tatreez, and that haven't necessarily stitched or cross-stitched or embroidered before. Because the craft in itself is quite simple, and we teach you the basics of how to do so.
Now, you speak about stitch and cross stitch, and you speak about embroidery, right? So they're all different things, right? What's the difference between cross stitch and just normal stitching?
So normal stitching could be machine sewing or hand stitching. So, if you're stitching clothing, that would be stitching. Embroidery falls under stitching, and that is a craft of using different color threads or to make designs. So cross stitch falls under embroidery, but it's a different kind of embroidery. So with cross stitch, it's easier than normal embroidery, because with cross stitch or Tatreez, your fabric gives you squares, and you stitch your fabric and you make a cross on it.
Okay.
So by making those crosses in a specific pattern, in specific colors, that's what creates the design.
Okay, and then also tell me, how long can it actually take to put one of these things together? Like, I mean, if you, for example, making a kifaya, or let's say we're making a lady's thobe, let's say you're making a thobe for yourself. How long can it actually take to do that?
Yes. So, because hand stitching takes time. So the jacket that I'm wearing, it took me a month to stitch at the back. We were invited to do an art installation And we had about 14 stitchers, ladies that had a panel to stitch that was about 20 to 30 centimeters wide and about 70 centimeters long, and they had 2 months to stitch that.
Wow.
Okay. So hand stitching is a fine craft. In our workshops, you can stitch something as simple as a Gazan cypress tree, which takes about 2 to 3 hours if you're completely new. Or you can stitch one of our watermelons, which we also teach you in our workshops as well. Those are easier entries into Tatreez, and then it becomes a lot more advanced as well, like a thobe, which takes years.
It is Radio 76 right here on 100.4 FM, and we discussed the trees, and we also it's basically something which has got to do with stitching, embroidery, and we're speaking to Tasneem Behardin, and she is the founder of Cape Town Stitch to Resist. Speaking about that name, why did you choose that name, or how did it come about? Like,
Okay.
What inspired you to choose that name?
So it was a community effort. So the group came together in about 2003. There was a call to action by the Ilian Aboudi, and she's a Palestinian living in the diaspora in Canada. And she started a movement known as Threads of Diaspora. And there was a call to action that invited people from around the world to stitch 15 by 15 centimeter squares of Tatreez and ship it to Canada to form part of the tapestry, which would create awareness about Palestinian culture. So I saw that on Instagram and my heart was drawn. And then because it was self-funded and we needed to ship the items through to Canada, I didn't know about costs at the time. So then I just randomly started messaging people on the internet that I thought may be interested or maybe were crafty. And alhamdulillah, we came together and we were 14 people all over Cape Town. Some knew each other, some didn't. And we shipped over 21 pieces of Tatreez to Canada. And from that, we were in a WhatsApp community. Then one of our members sent us a notification for the Week for Palestine.
Yeah.
So for our participation in the Week for Palestine, we needed to have a name. We didn't have a name then. So we needed to have a name. We need to have a mission statement. So we came together on our WhatsApp community, created polls, because that's what we do, and created a design, got everyone's input, created a name, people had to vote, and that's how Cape Town Stitch to Resist as a name and as a logo came to form.
Now, you mentioned something about we didn't have a name yet, and that's one thing I, like and also dislike about us. Sometimes we're so ready to just, how can we help? We're ready to just, and we don't really always put in all the, we don't have all our ducks in a row sometimes to get all those things and get the, everything into motion, but we are. And I say I don't like that, the fact that we don't always have our ducks in a row, but I like the fact that we're always ready to help and see how we can be part of a movement that really presents, how we feel and what, all of this actually means to us. And that's the thing that actually I like about that, and I mean, you guys obviously have been an example of that,
Yeah.
that as you clearly alluded to earlier there.
I think also because it's completely new, it hasn't been done in South Africa before. Everything that we're doing is being created from scratch. So our coming together, our doing Tatreez, our creating workshops, our creating now a community, and we're in the process of getting registered as an NPO. We created kits, we created keyrings, we've created an art installation. All of these things are brand new. Okay, so there's no blueprint for us. We're creating it from scratch.
And then tell me, in terms of that, like, is there anything like, you'd like to reach out to people, like, if there's anything that they can, contribute? Maybe there's, somebody that does something, maybe, I don't know what it is that you may, you know what you need, right? So maybe there's somebody that's out there that maybe can come on board and assist you with creating something or doing something, which I think you can really benefit each other. Like, I mean, maybe there's somebody that has a skill that they can bring on board, and you can benefit from them and they can benefit from you. Is there anything that you might need in terms of that? Do you know?
We're
maybe?
always open to input, feedback and suggestions. We mostly South Africans, although we have part of our community Palestinians as well as people from all over the world. And through this organization as well, we've also collaborated with Palestinians that brought goods from Palestine because of the work that we're doing. And in that way, we've also raised funds for Palestinian aid through Gift of the Givers. So it's a very much a thriving community. Tatreez supplies are quite costly. So if you're familiar with textile art or fiber art, you know you can go to your local fabric shop and you can buy fabric for like 50, 60, 70, 100 rand a meter. With Tatreez, the fabric is very specialized. It's known as Aida cloth, and that's about between 400 to 500 rand a meter.
Wow.
Okay. That's excluding the thread. So normal embroidery thread, you get between 15 to 20 rand a spool. I'm speaking a lot of technical terms now.
That's fine. I'm sure there's a lot of people that can actually relate to what you're saying.
However, with the thread that we use, it's known as DMC Pele 8, and that's about 50 rand a spool. Okay. If you are purchasing a pattern from a Tatreez artist, that is bought online, and then you're going to pay in dollars. Okay. So if there is anyone in South Africa that can get us DMC Pele 8, we greatly appreciate it, because when we did our art installation, we actually had to import it from the US. So the artist, she was, our piece was a response to her work. Her name is Nabi Yasir, and she came in from the US, and we actually had to make arrangements with her to go down and get thread for us and bring it here. Because it's a growing craft in South Africa now, there was never really a supply and demand for it. Now there is becoming an increasing demand for DMC Pillar 8.
And over time it will definitely...
It's already growing. So compared to where we were last year to now, it's expanded. And there are one or two suppliers that have it, but it's not easily accessible.
And it's also not always, reachable in terms of monetary aspects. I'm sure that's is what you're also speaking to here. But look, can you explain the symbolism behind? Well, I think I did speak to you about that already, and I don't think you really had gone too far in that. But how did the trees become a form of resistance during the First Intifada? I know I can give a high level overview as per our mission statement here, but would rather not want to go into details, and I'm not a historian. Obviously, I know you mentioned that, that you're not actually a historian and you don't really know all the history of it. But what role does community play in the practice of Tatreez and your organization?
So community is paramount with what we do, because with the ancient practice of Tatreez, it's all about community. And the beauty of the craft is that it actually ties in with South African and Muslim or coloured or Cape Malay community as well. So we always, as historically, came together, and our parents and our grandparents were craftsmen. They could sew, they could knit, they could build, they could do all of these things. And generally how it happened was that you were taught this craft by sitting with your father or your uncle or your grandfather, and you grew up learning this craft. So that's exactly the same way that it works with Palestinian culture in terms of how they hand over the gift of Tatreez as well, and how they teach it. It's taught generationally. So grandmothers sit with the grandchildren, mothers sit with the children, fathers stitch, sons stitch, everybody stitches, because it's a means of preserving culture, and it's a deep cultural practice. And also from a mind and a psychology aspect, is deeply therapeutic as well, because the hands and the heart are connected. So with everything that's happening, for example, we are witnessing genocide live through our screens, never happened before. This is an excellent way to channel that emotions and that grief and that horror and that just overwhelm into creative and artistic means. I know I do it personally when there was news of the latest martyr and my heart is broken and I'm sobbing in the bathroom because I just can't handle it. I take out my Tatreez and I start stitching, because that's a way for me to be able to be present with those strong emotions, calm my nervous system, and hopefully create something meaningful and show solidarity in meaningful ways as well.
I think that's also another beautiful thing that you've actually touched on there. And, I know it might not be as easy for somebody that just started out, and it might not maybe be as fun for somebody that just started out, that doesn't know how to work needles and that kind of thing. But can there ever come a time where somebody might feel like you, and just be able to, put their mind and heart and soul into a garment and actually just go at it, Can it ever, how long does it take to develop that skill where you can just, say, look, I don't want to talk today. I don't want to be on my phone today. I just want to sit with the trees and, go ahead and do a garment or stitch something which I think is meaningful to myself, but it can also benefit, everyone else out there. And I think it's also an art form.
It is.
It might just be, to somebody, it might just be something that can keep you back warm, or cover you. But it's also an art form, I think, which stands out, and it also sends codes of messages to people who understand them. And I think that, for me, really is such a significant thing about this. It's beautiful if you really understand. And like, even with my poetry, it's exactly like that. I actually write poetry like that in ways that, it's not just for everyone. It's like, like they say now, Isa used to speak in parables. So if you don't, if you know, you know. If you don't, yeah. So that's the beauty of artwork and creative expression. It's deeply meaningful, and it has layers of significance as well. And you're right, it's not for everyone, because we're not air. So so it is quite niche, but it is quite. It's got many layers of symbolism and significance. And I think, for example, your question was if I'm just a starter and I don't know how long will it take. So we have people that have never ever stitched in their lives before, not even a button that came loose on the t-shirt, okay? And that done pieces of Tatreez, and that are Tatreez enthusiasts and doing ongoing Tatreez now and participating in art installations. So it's not a difficult craft to pick up, but from my experience and what we experience in our group is that if you start, you can't stop. That's how beautiful it is, because there's so much that you can do with it as well. Besides keeping your hands busy, it actually regulates your nervous system. It's meaningful. It's a means of showing our solidarity to the Palestinian cause through, stitching these artworks, these beautiful crafted artworks, and being able to connect with these people and with these souls that have passed on, and actually tie in our hearts with it to be able to create something meaningful and hopefully beautiful at the end. Now look, how do you see the art of Tatreez evolving in the future? Can we reframe this to how do you see, within Cape Town, or what its future holds in Cape Town? Like, what do you foresee, of Tatreez?
So, as non-Palestinians practicing Tatreez, we are really just going, and we are part of how it's evolving. We are part of what's happening. We are part of the growth. So it's an ancient practice, and we are honored to be able to use it and grow along with it. And the evolution is actually lying with everyone that's showing solidarity and support in different ways as well. So it's personalizing the Tatreez. It's staying true to not cultural appropriation, but cultural appreciation. That's what we do. It's honoring the roots of Tatreez and the actual Tatreez artists. We always sort of cite them, if you get it from a website or from a different Tatreez artist or collective, we always cite them as well. Because the source is extremely important. If it's our source, if it's something that I created, and then we'll cite it as that. But if it's taken from somewhere else, it's very important for us to mention that as well, because that's extremely important in just being able to bring in the chain of transmission and to keep that authenticity there. So we are part of the evolution of Tatreez, I hope, in good ways.
And so we're speaking about Cape Town itself here. Now, in Cape Town itself, has there been, a great influx of people, showing interest? I know it's actually a short time to ask that question, but I know that you spoke about 100 people from last year up until this point. So going, for this year, where do you see that, as a trajectory, if we can just look at that, like, what do you foresee, inshallah, for this year? Because I'm looking at big numbers, inshallah. Because I'm already interested, so I'm hopeful, that it will be big numbers of people being interested in this. Because I think it's also a skill that it can really help a lot of people, develop themselves. Because you did speak about hand to heart connection here as well. And I think a lot of us can, sit down with these kind of things if there's nothing to do. Well, here's something to do. And I think it's also something that you can put yourself into, and that can also really speak to people through just a medium of clothing or tapestry, which comes together to signify so much more important things and details within it. And there's also sometimes you just think, and you just look at people and you think to yourself, like, I wish there was something that I could do to help you, and here it is. And that's exactly what I'm speaking to, that I'm hopeful that, as this year goes, and the next time you come here to Radio 76 to have an interview like this, that, the numbers are a lot greater. But what do you foresee, inshallah?
So Cape Town Tatreez will take over the world. But really, I perceive that how we've grown over an extremely short period of time has been exponentially. We were literally 14 people that were stitching. Now, whenever we host events, which is roughly about once a month, we have 20 to 30 people that come to our events that are learning Tatreez from scratch, okay? Or that are sort of our foundation that are come every month as well. So there's always new people coming, and it's constantly growing as well. And the beauty of the community is that we don't keep the information to ourselves. Everything is there to be shared. So we'll tell you where to buy supplies, how to buy supplies, where to stitch, where to get patterns, how not to do all of those things. So the how-tos are easily accessible. And the community is growing. I think also because Tatreez is a so-called new craft, and when I say new craft, I'm not talking about from a Palestinian point of view. I'm talking about from a South African awareness point of view. Yeah. Okay, it's constantly growing and evolving. We've had opportunities we were invited by other NGOs to participate in the fundraisers for Palestine. And this is what's really given exposure for Cape Town to resist, because the public isn't aware of this craft. And through all of these things, the awareness is being created, and then greater projects are coming. So we started off with just small little events, then we started being invited to bigger events, and our biggest sort of invitation that we've been participated in thus far is an art installation, which most likely is going to travel and going to different countries as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know this is for the resistance, and now the question becomes, because it's for the resistance, have you had any resistance in terms of what you're doing?
So we are blessed as South Africans and Cape Townians to have very strong ties with the Palestinian cause. So within our community, we have not had any resistance. However, there was at the beginning when we started, there was one young lady who actually had her Jewish family, actually, because she also stitched a piece of Tatreez and shipped it over to Canada. And her Jewish family or a parent completely did not agree with it and kicked them out of the home. Okay, so they then relocated, and they are happier for it, but that was the only one major sort of resistance that we've gotten over the period.
Now, I know the reason I ask that is because, it's obviously something which we know the cause behind it, and we know that it is faced, they do face a lot of challenges just for even speaking out. And if you do speak out, it's, to the avatar with you. But look, how can people outside of Palestine or outside of the Palestinian community support your efforts?
I mean, we have a great support from non-Palestinians as well as Palestinians as well. I think for us right now, the community, because we are a South African and a Cape Town-based community, and it's quite diverse, we also have support from Palestinians living in the diaspora as well as Palestinians living in Palestine as well, and collaborations with them as well. So I think if you are a non-Palestinian looking to support us, by all means, or if you're a Palestinian or anyone that's willing to support us, we are open to collaborating, we are open to projects, we are open to all of these things, because we have a message to share, and that message is peaceful resistance using the art form of Tatreez.
Now, look, the Tatreez is quite an interesting way of describing, or putting things together to form a picture. So it's basically pictures within pictures, if you really understand it. And I've seen maybe I would say probably the least bit of the Tatreez, but I mean I already understand, just based on what you just told us now, that the power behind it and the beauty behind it, actually, or within it. But it really takes an eye to see it. If you don't see it, and you don't understand it. But look, I know you guys are obviously, as crafters and artists, or dedicated to this cause. I know it's not always an easy task to come together and do this kind of thing. What is the setting like? I mean, is there? I know you spoke of you guys have now come together. You're about 100 individuals doing this. Where exactly is this, and how does it happen? Like, can come from the south, the north, of wherever? Is it in Cape Town? Is it even in South Africa?
Yeah. So yes, we were also quite fortunate in that there was different places that actually gave us the space for us to Tatreez because of the meaningfulness behind the work. So a special thank you to Southern Light Country House in Constantia, because that was one of our venues. When we were doing the art installation, we also had the art gallery, the facilities. We came together once a month to be able to stitch over there. Our last event was our first open public event in a public setting, and that was at Greenpoint Park. Okay, that was now at the end of December.
And how were you guys received by the general public when you did that there?
There's great interest. I mean, people will see what you're doing, or they will be curious about, what is this? I think my wife will enjoy this. I think my child will enjoy this as well. And then they join, or they join our group, and because that's where we sort of share when the next event will be. Okay, and then they come in and they join our next event. So there's definitely great interest. And because we are a growing community, the places that we actually host our events in, if anyone would like to host us, you're more than welcome to as well. That is basically how we are growing and expanding as time goes on.
Now, look, we are on basically the last couple of minutes of the show here, and before we let you go, I just want to grab some of the information that of the listeners can really use to be in contact with you, and just stay in contact and follow through and become part of your project and whatever you guys foresee going forward, inshallah, with this. Maybe you can just give us how people can reach you. Is that on? You said you spoke about the WhatsApp group. Do you guys have any other platforms that people can see and follow and do all of the necessary things which these which we do as we are constantly on our phones?
So we do have an Instagram page, and our Instagram handle is called Cape Town Stitch to Resist. And in the link in our bio, you can actually just go into there to join our WhatsApp group.
Okay, so that's perfect. The WhatsApp group, does it have a number for people that hasn't gone through that?
Yeah, so it's 076.
So it's 076
39
33
555.
So it's 076, not 076. It's 076 39 33 555, and that's to contact Tasneem Bihar in relation to the Stitch to Resist thing. It's a form of art, I would say, but it's also and there's one more question I actually wanted to ask you about this. Now, when you do this, right, when you're putting all these things together, what happens to this to the garment or whatever it is that you made? Do you sell that, or is it only for yourself, or how does it actually work? I mean, is there a business aspect to it?
So we don't necessarily do it for business purposes, because the work is for aid and to uphold culture and heritage, and it's a means of craftivism. Okay, So, for example, if you're going to stitch a small little tree known as a cypress tree, which is a symbol of the resilience of the Palestinian people, we turn it into key rings, which we then sell to donate to aid. Okay. As well as if you stitch a watermelon pin, that also gets donated to aid. If you want to stitch something for yourself, it's really an open blank canvas. Okay. You can create anything that you'd like, from your own design on your outfit using Tatreez symbols, or a t-shirt, or anything like that. Or, for example, an art installation. We're also participating in a different project with the Tatreez Collective in the UK, as well as the Arab British Centre. We will also stitching Tatreez squares and shipping them off to the UK to form part of their tapestry. Okay, so if you'd like to join, anyone who would like to join, you can join our WhatsApp group. The cutoff is the beginning of Feb, and all that you can do is self-funded. So you stitch a 15 centimeter by 15 centimeter square of Tatreez, and you ship it off to the UK. So that's another initiative that we're participating in as well. So there's different things that you can do with your Tatreez. You can make it into something for yourself. You can do a gift for someone. For example, if you want to do a coaster, you can turn your Tatreez into a coaster and gift it to someone. I've got wall art as Tatreez, because with Tatreez you can add in Arabic square kufik as well. So you can write and you can stitch in different things like the Shahada, if you'd like. You can stitch in Palestine or Palestine in Arabic, if you'd like. So it's quite broad in terms of what you can do with it. Okay, and it's really just a means of being able to either personalize it or make a meaningful gift. As a non-Palestinian, Palestinians do give us guidelines of what they require from us as non-Palestinians practicing Tatreez, and we shouldn't necessarily do it as a money-making exercise. So our goal and our vision and what we're doing as a means of craftivism and upholding and showing our solidarity through the means, and then with the organization is also just donating to aid in small ways as well.
And on that note, I say shukran so much to you, Tasneem Bihardin, the founder of Stitch to Resist here in Cape Town, for speaking to us about Tatreez. Shukran so much for you, and I hope that everyone has benefited from this, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take your initiative from strength to strength and really, make it a success, and may people see the significance in what you're trying to achieve, inshallah. But until we speak again, shukran so much, and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Ameen. Shukran so much. Jazakallah khair.